I may be exaggerating. You know, I like to do that for comic effect. Welcome to Groovy Movies. My name is Lily Austin.
And my name's James Brailsford. Hello.
Hello, James. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yes, as like last recording, there's been quite a bit going on in the world of film news and goss. So yeah, some choice bits to kind of pick over, I think.
All right, without further ado, what are you picking over this week?
Well, it's like my favourite subject at the moment, which is just Disney's and their disconnection between what they put out and the audiences giving a shit about it. They've really just had a string of misses. And Deadpool and Wolverine, congratulations, a huge hit for them. But that was a project they inherited from Fox. So it doesn't really count in my mind as Disney produced it. That film was already well down the development pipeline, and then Disney bought Fox, so they inherited the project. So it made money, I think, because Disney didn't have much to do with it. Anyway,
shots fired. We're not even a minute into the show.
So anyway, Snow White. There's a live-action remake coming.
Yes, next year, finally. I feel like this has been on the cards for forever.
It has, and I'm going to say that I think the intention was for it to be released for the 100th anniversary, which was last year. But due to the constant delays, like it was the original release date, I think, was early last year, but it's now March of next year. So there's been lots of reshoots. Just it seems to me remarkable that for what is essentially the prestige, the Rolls Royce of Disney films, the kind of the motherlode, that they kind of rather haphazardly went into production on a film which they hadn't really thought through, and then they've reshot it all.
They've reshot it all?
Yeah, because they originally didn't have Seven Dwarfs in it. I would say check out the images online to see what they originally had in. It wasn't Seven Dwarfs. And then obviously, surprise, surprise, not having Seven Dwarfs in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs caused a little bit of a backlash.
Wait, what do you mean? You can't just tease us like that and not tell us. So what did it originally have? Just no dwarfs at all?
Magical creatures.
Oh, but I seem to remember, wasn't it because originally there were going to be dwarves, or is that even the PC term these days? Little people.
Little people.
Right, and then that was considered a touchy subject, which I'm feeling right now. I feel like I'm on touchy ground. I don't want to upset anyone. Wasn't that it? So now they've gone back?
No, that was part of it. Peter Dinklage did an interview with his take on it.
What was his take on it?
Again, it is like we're stepping on eggshells here. I would say just read the interview,
okay.
because
we'll put it in the show notes.
Put it in the show notes. Read the interview. We'll have a look at some behind-the-scenes stills of what was originally shot, and then test screenings have been disastrous after the reshoot, so they've had to reshoot it again. And there's rumours that
so it's audiences a reshoot.
Yes, third set of reshoots. Apparently, audiences didn't really connect with Rachel Zegler's modern spin on Snow White. Obviously, doesn't need no man. It's not going to be a romance about the prince. She's going to self-actualize, and she's going to take command of her own destiny. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Okay. Yeah, that does seem... Snow White was my favourite of the Disney princesses. I think mainly because I am also pale. Whatever you can find to relate to, right? And hey, I like a modern post-feminist take on, like, why not? But it does seem like the story is so much predicated on her getting a snog off a guy. Wait, no, that's Sleeping Beauty. What happens with Snow White? She just had... The whole point is
a love interest.
A man rescues her, and lots of little men rescue her. And there's what else is there?
It's the question of, I get that you want to do a modern spin on things, but also why remake the story if all you want to do is change the core elements of it?
Yeah, what's the point? Leave that artifact where it is, do something else.
This is the Disney model at the moment, right? It's just reshoot things. So they're reshooting a lot of films, which, like Indiana Jones, the budget for that was nearly 400 million, just because of the amount of reshoots. And same with this film. I don't know what the budget is, but it's certainly a hugely inflated budget, which it will have no chance of making back unless it is one of the top 10 grossing films of all time.
Maybe it will be.
Maybe it will. I mean, nothing says success than a film that's been reshot 3 times.
Well, on that note, we can compare and contrast with a movie that doesn't look like there's even going to be one initial take, because I'm
Yeah.
devastated to learn that Joaquin Phoenix has just walked off his own passion project. He approached Todd Haynes, one of my favorite directors, icon in gay cinema, and wanted to make a film about a gay romance with Joaquin Phoenix in the lead role. And he has now, I think it's 5 days into filming, has walked off the set, and that's the end of it.
5 days before filming, I think.
No, apparently, well, maybe they hadn't started filming, but he was definitely there. The man was on the ground.
I heard he was in Los Angeles when he said he wasn't doing it. I think.
Okay, I may be exaggerating. You know, I like to do that for comic effect. But the point is, the film is dead. And there was a bit of controversy, kind of, keeping with this topic of controversy in film, about the fact that Joaquin Phoenix would be playing a gay character and he himself isn't gay. I mean, I have to say, the fact that Todd Haynes is directing it, I think surely, they wrote it together once Joaquin approached him with the story, and Todd Haynes loved the story, loved the concept, and they worked on it together. So I kind of think that if that is the reason why he left, which it sounds like it isn't, but he might be using that as an excuse to walk away. Who knows? But all I know is I'm sad about this.
When you look at Christine Vachon, who's the producer at Killer Films that was producing it, who's done all of Todd Haynes' films, she did a great book in the late 90s about producing in Hollywood. Anyway, Christine Vachon, she's come out and said, it was his idea. He approached us. He's been the driving force behind it. So they got all this funding together. The impression I'm getting is that this was done at some speed. I could be wrong, but he kind of developed the script idea. It's not as if Joaquin Phoenix just suddenly read the script for the first time. Was like, oh my God, what is this? I'm not doing this. It's like he was intimately involved. And yeah, they've now got people who they need to cut checks for because sets were built. All of the heads of department were hired. The whole thing's a go. So people need paying.
Okay, now I'm looking at a Deadline article now, and Phoenix reportedly stormed off the set 2 weeks ago, but in Mexico. So they were on set at the time. And production paused. They were hoping to get it back up and running, but now it's official. It's dead.
Right.
It's over.
Wow.
We're not going to see this movie. And I always want to see a Todd Haynes movie, and the fact that he was so excited about it. He'd been talking about it.
So they've got some stuff in the can. That's interesting. I wonder if that will ever suddenly see the light of day. So it sounds like he got cold feet once they started filming. I didn't realize that. I thought it was before they'd even set foot. So it does seem that like there was the classic creative differences once they were on set.
Yeah, and it sounded like an interesting project. So it was going to be him and Danny Ramirez, who you might remember from Top Gun Maverick, playing two men in the 1930s who get into a kind of, it sounds like a road trip love affair. They travel from Los Angeles to Mexico. Sounds great.
Detective story, it said as well, which sounded interesting.
I love that. Sexy interracial gay detective story. Sounds perfect.
And very violent, apparently. Lots of violence in it. So yeah, what more do you want from a trip to the cinema,
Oh well. That's dead, guys. So sorry that we even spoke about it, really. Forget that ever was an idea. It's gone. It's over. But we do have 3 films that were made and you can watch.
What a segue. What a segue.
Was that a good segue? No. Segues have never been my strong suit. I think everyone listening knows that. But moving on swiftly, this week we thought, as it's coming to the end of August, and I think we can all agree, it's been a bit of a rough summer. In the UK, it's been rainy, it's been cold, we've barely seen any sunshine. On the continent, it's been a heat wave, it's been unbearable. And I'm not even going to get into the politics that have been the global politics is just an absolute shit show. So with that in mind, we thought, why not kind of lean into it and talk about some movies where people are sad? Sad girls on holiday. Sad girls on holiday.
As I was watching these films, the genre of film I was watching just seemed to slowly materialize. Like, oh, it's sad girls on holiday, I think. I was trying to think of, have I seen films like this where it's a sad guy? And I'm sure there are, but none sprang out of my head. So please let us know if there are sad boys on holiday.
Well, apart from Bill Murray, of course.
Sorry, yes, within this film. Yeah.
Because that's a little hint. This week we're going to be talking about Lost in Translation, Swimming Pool, and Shirley Valentine. So yeah, predominantly solo ladies, but there is also a sad solo man. So
But I would argue though that Bill Murray is certainly the big actor, the star actor in Lost in Translation. But it feels like the film pivots. Well, it's equally balanced, I guess. You are right, but I feel like I was following Scarlett Johansson's character a bit more than I was Bill Murray.
really, I kind of felt like it was built a bit more tipped towards Bill Murray, actually. It's probably even in who you're relating to on any given watch, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're diving right in, but shall we start with Swimming Pool? Because I was feeling we should start with the most bleak and depressing and kind of move our way up to finish on a feel good note. Does that work for you, James?
That works for me, yes. So yeah, it was very, very mysterious, this swimming pool film. I think maybe I'd seen a poster for it, but I didn't really know much about it. And it was certainly seems to have been, you had to really dig it down into the internet to extract a copy of it. It wasn't easy to find.
Yeah, I watched it a year ago on Mubi, and I think I have seen it sort of about. It's definitely been on iPlayer before, but right now, helpfully,
You
yeah,
can't.
it's really hard to track down, which is a shame because I think it's worth a watch.
And it is one of these things that is starting to happen with streaming is what we call digital black holes. So it's like, well, if you want to watch, if Swimming Pool is a film you quite like and you want to watch it, there's no way you can easily watch it now. Although I guess you can buy physical media, but yeah, it's we get so used to things being just available streaming that when they're not, you realize, oh right, yeah, there's no guarantees any of these films are going to stay on those sites.
Yeah, I mean, I think for anyone other than very strongly identifying film buffs, I don't think anyone else has DVD players. So if it's not online, it's like going to be hard for you to find, for you to watch. But yeah, so Swimming Pool, it came out in 2003, same year as Lost in Translation, actually, which we may get on to. And it was co-written and directed by Francois Ozon. And it stars Charlotte Rampling as a writer, a woman called Sarah Morton, she's not exactly suffering from writer's block, but she's sick of this detective character that's made her very successful as a writer, and she wants to do something different. So her publisher sends her off to his beautiful house in France, where she encounters his daughter, and it all goes from there, really. What did you think of the film, James?
Well, I didn't know what I was watching really. I didn't know the kind of where it was going to. I didn't know where it was going to go. But I remember early on, I was like, "Oh, it's got some like thriller, unsettling music."
Yeah.
Which I wish they hadn't done that because that cued me up from the get-go that this was going to go in a slightly more mysterious angle. And I wish I'd been a bit more twisted. That was the only thing that cued me up really because it was looking like a fairly straightforward drama. But then things kind of evolve.
Yeah, I guess we don't need to spoil it too much because actually I think for our purposes what's interesting is Charlotte Rampling's character being depressed, and the action and the twists happen in the final third when she seems to be in a better mood. So it's kind of okay. But you're right, it's strange because the first 2/3 of the film, you're very much following this character who is not very happy in general. She's kind of unkind to everyone, and particularly this woman who's arrived at her house unannounced. And it's sort of a character study of her and her interactions with this girl, Julie. And then, yeah, it kind of suddenly all changes in the final act and becomes more of a thriller. But you're right, the music keeps keying you up. You're getting all nervous, like, oh, what's going to happen? The music's spooky. And then suddenly it all goes down in the final act. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, fine, all right.
Right, yeah. But watching it, I did think that this film, especially the first 2/3 of the film, because there's not a great deal in the script for Charlotte Rampling to kind of, as far as the words that she speaks, it's more her expressions, it's more the vibe. This is very much a vibe film, along with Lost in Translation, I think. It's more about the atmosphere. And so it's a lot of her walking around, it's a lot of her just kind of taking things in. And I think it needed to be somebody like Charlotte Rampling who's got some kind of gravitas when she's not even saying anything.
Yeah, totally. But I was really kind of entranced by this character because she's so good at being really, really uptight and repressed. She's she's so stiff. There's this bit where she's dancing with Julie towards the end of the film. And it's the most amazing awkward dance you've ever seen. Like it literally makes you want to crawl up inside yourself and die. It's like so awkward. But even before we get to that that was almost like the nadir, and then we move up again, and finally she loosens up after she kind of expels all her awkwardness in this crazy dance. But before all of that, from the get-go, she's so kind of rude with people, so unfriendly. And the thing I was really into was the fact that she doesn't really eat real food. She just eats huge quantities of yogurt most nights, and occasionally like a dessert and Coca-Cola. She's sort of doesn't want to treat herself exactly, like she doesn't want to be kind to herself. She wants to be as practical and quick as possible, but then every so often she can't cope with it anymore, and she needs to indulge, so she needs to eat those profiteroles. You know what I mean? She needs that hit of
I'd
sugar.
never picked up on that. Yeah,
That was
very.
because then when the minute Julie goes out after she's bought that nice food, she can't resist. She has to eat some of that foie gras and the sausages that Julie bought, and sort of similarly, this fact that a big part of the film is kind of a sexual thriller, psychosexual thriller, is that she's kind of fascinated by Julie having sex all the time and her kind of promiscuity. And it's kind of the same thing, right? Of her, she's so uptight and repressed and like doesn't seem to have any, doesn't date or have relationships. And there's this girl who every night is bringing back a different guy and clearly loves sex. And she's like fascinated by
it. Yeah.
Until the final third, I was just really into just being in this beautiful location. They're in this amazing house in France with, as the title suggests, a swimming pool. And you're just watching this woman, she's come here to escape so she can focus on her writing. And instead she encounters this young woman who's the opposite of her. She could not be more different from her. And it's making her kind of face up to all her neuroses, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I was more engaged with the character study part of it, and then it kind of became like a lot. I don't know. There's a lot of French filmmakers love Alfred Hitchcock, so it became a kind of a Hitchcock-esque little thriller towards the end.
And then it just ruins it. The ending ruins everything. Like we won't say what the ending is, but how did you feel about the ending, James?
Like it's like along the lines of it was all a dream.
Exactly.
Just like,
I literally wanted to kill Francois Ozon in that moment. I was like, what have you done? You've just spent all this time creating these really intricate and interesting characters, and you're trying to tell me, like, fuck it. Like, I don't want to spoil it too much, but I was just like, yeah, because for me, the character study bit was the best bit. And then we go into this crazy, you were right, Hitchcockian thing at the end. And then, oh, never mind. That's not real anyway. Fuck off. What are you doing to me?
Oh, well, I'm glad it wasn't just me. I was, just cheapened it all a bit.
Well, the funny thing was, right, I said I watched it last year. I didn't remember. I didn't remember the final act at all. I didn't remember anything other than, this character study element, the fact that Charlotte Rampling is this cold, like, complex character, and then there's this young, sexy girl who comes in who kind of shakes her up. And it's almost like my mind chose to just, like, forget the final half an hour because, like, come on, it doesn't work for me. So I still enjoyed it this time. I think as long as you don't know about that rubbish ending, it's a great movie.
There we go. Stop before the third act. That's our advice. Soak up the vibes. If you want, just imagine it's like the chief, is it the head sister of the Bene Gesserit having a holiday? There you go.
Oh my God, I forgot she was the Bene Gesserit lady.
She's just taking a bit of time out, having a 2 weeks annual leave.
Yeah.
Then she's going to go back plotting the creation of the Kizak Saderat.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, should we move on to Lost in Translation?
Yes, the only one of these two that I've seen before. I mean, it's a bit of a classic, isn't it, really? I think if anyone's got even an inkling of an interest in films in general, I think this is one of the ones most people have seen.
Yeah, you've probably seen it, but we'll still give you a quick overview just in case. Came out in 2003, as I said, same as Swimming Pool, directed by Sofia Coppola. We've had a real run of Coppola. We've had two Francis Fords and now a Sofia. That's nepotism for you. And it stars Bill Murray as Bob Harris, a kind of fading actor, and Scarlett Johansson plays Charlotte, this very young married woman, and they're both staying in the same hotel in Tokyo, feeling a little bit disconnected from the world, a bit lost. I mean, it's a perfect title. You know, they say that a good film title needs to have some irony in it, and it does it.
Oh
It
yeah,
nails it.
it's spot on.
Yeah, and yeah, this film was an absolute smash hit. I think the budget was 4 million, but it made 190, nearly 120 million at the box office. It's pretty good for an indie movie.
Yep.
Again, nepotism, but it's a fantastic movie. I think watching it again, I was like, it's not original, but it's definitely one of my favorite films. It's again, vibes film, vibes all the way.
Yeah, vibes film. I mean, very different from a film that her dad might make. This is like a very small, very improvised feeling, character study, low budget. It's very much the opposite of what dad does, but exceptionally well done.
And I guess that's the secret, isn't it, to being a successful Nepo baby? It's to go into the same field, but do your own thing, plow your own field.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see how she got Bill Murray on board. She spent a year trying to persuade him, because I don't know if you know how you get Bill Murray on board for a project. Do you know this?
You
phone his
line.
answer phone.
Yeah. He doesn't. Yeah, he fired his agent like 20 years ago or something, didn't he?
You basically give your pitch, I guess, onto his answer phone, and if he likes the idea, he gets back in touch. But she was saying that she didn't know until she wasn't sure until he actually turned up on set whether he was going to do it. It all sounded a little bit with a wing and a prayer.
Yeah, but he's a man of his word. He came and made this film, and it's interesting, right? Because I think this film really, to me, sums up that saying, "Wherever you go, there you are." Or I'm paraphrasing slightly. I was trying to look up where that phrase originates from. And some people say Confucius, but others say that's bullshit. But anyway.
I've never even heard that phrase.
You've never heard that phrase? Wherever you go, there you are. I think it whenever I feel a bit down when I'm on holiday.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of the thing, is that, you know, we go on holiday to escape, and to escape whatever is we're feeling down about, right? The idea is you go somewhere new, exciting, that's completely different, and it will give you a chance to feel like a new person or have a change. But often I think what happens is, rather than distracting you, when you're away from the day-to-day habits and monotony of your life, in fact, all you're left with is yourself and your thoughts. And that's when you have to really face all the issues that you have. I think that is the through line in these movies, because I think that's kind of, for the first two acts at least, what's happening in Swimming Pool, Charlotte Rampling's character, you know, whoever this Julie character is, it brings to the fore these neuroses that are in her mind that maybe she wasn't having to think about when she was at home looking after her mother and writing her detective novels. And in Lost in Translation, Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson's characters, they both have got a lot of dissatisfaction in their life. They're feeling very disconnected from their partners. And then they come to Tokyo, a place where they don't speak the language. It's very different from the country they're from. And so they feel even more disconnected and more lost and more isolated. And it's only when they find each other, and this is where we start to get into more optimistic territory, that they start to connect, and then connect with the people around them and actually start to enjoy Tokyo and appreciate how amazing it is as a city.
Yeah, I love that. I love that sequence where they both kind of sneak off for a night out. You know, they go kind of clubbing, and then they kind of get a taxi back. You know, it just the way that it's shot, it feels kind of like you're in the moment with them. It feels like excitement of just kind of in a new city, going for a bit of a wild night out. You know, it really captures that feeling very well.
Yeah, it does. And I feel like that karaoke scene, the pinnacle of that night out, is them ending up with these friends of Charlotte's, Scarlett Johansson's character, in a karaoke bar. And it is definitely the fantasy of what karaoke is. I mean, the reality of karaoke is everyone screaming at the top of their lungs, singing together. And if one person sings on their own, everyone finds them a little bit obnoxious and annoying and don't care for their choice. But in this, everyone is given their turn. It's sort of, you know, metaphorical for how they're feeling. And Scarlett Johansson sings beautifully, Brass in Pocket. The flirtation between them is starting to fizzle.
Yeah.
It's a perfect scene. And I can only dream that my karaoke nights are like that, but I know that they never are.
I think the film really captured that ennui feeling you might have when you are on holiday, which is meant to be this exciting adventure, but you actually feel quite sad and lonely. I mean, most of my holidaying and travel is by myself, so I experience it quite a lot, and I like that. I like kind of that you have this kind of slightly sad, lonely time somewhere else with yourself. You just have to hang out, and hey, yeah, you feel a bit lost and isolated, but let's work through this and let's just enjoy that feeling whilst we're somewhere else. I don't know. To me, that's a holiday.
James, that is why we are friends, because we both like to indulge in melancholy feelings from time to time. Because
Hell yeah.
I know what you mean. I remember once I was very sad and depressed on a holiday. I was in Chamonix, which is a very beautiful French town in the Alps. Well, you've got the Alps all around you, but I was there in the summer, kind of en route back from a rather challenging trip to Italy. I won't divulge the details, but the point is, I was in a swimming pool, having just cried, looking up at the Alps, and I got to really indulge, like, God, to be so sad in such a beautiful place.
We're such tortured souls, Lily, aren't we?
It was very Snow White going, oh no.
One of my magical creatures can help me.
Literally, it was definitely of that vibe. So yeah, I know what you mean. There is something, it feels like you're really at your most core human emotional self, right? When you're just like, just purely feeling the feels, be they happy or sad, when you're just with yourself, So, God, it's indulgent as fuck, but that's, yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, this movie is definitely it, because, yeah, you're right, it just perfectly captures that kind of vibe. I think, like, it's so different from Francis Ford Coppola's films. The plot is so minor. There really isn't much plot. All those scenes could be switched around and it wouldn't make any difference. And so it's mainly just long shots of them going about their days, and they just hold for a long time. And so, yeah, you're just very much there with their emotions.
And apparently there wasn't much of a script. It was quite a loose, quite a thin script, and it feels like that, because it feels like, well, there's a lot of comedy improvisation there, and if it didn't have Bill Murray, then it wouldn't be as funny a film as it is, because he's throwing in clearly a lot of improv and a lot of kind of humor just all the way through it, which didn't feel like it was scripted. It did feel like he was improvising, which gives it a nice naturalistic documentary kind of you're almost there feel to it.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of, I thought something that's very interesting watching it this time, and the first shot of the film is a iconic close-up of Scarlett Johansson's bum in some like sheer knickers, and my thought was like, oh, God, why does this film start like this? It makes no sense. It's got no narrative. You have to really think. What? That's what James.
Something for the dads. Something for the dads.
Is that what you think it is?
No, of course not. I think there's some artistic meaning. That was just for the lols, for the dads,
What I thought what was quite interesting, right, was that having done a bit of cursory Googling, I learned is like has sparked so much critical debate amongst film scholars. What is the meaning of the bum shot?
Right.
And apparently Scarlett Johansson, I mean, bloody hell, she was only 17 in this film, which is like definitely a weird vibe, very strange. And also baffling, because she's playing a recent graduate from university who's been married for 2 years. So I'm like, how old is she meant to be? The other part of the film that causes so much debate is the very final scene when Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson are reunited for a moment, kind of on the streets of Tokyo, and they finally hug, having not really had that much physical contact throughout the film, even though they do seem to kind of have a somewhat romance. I mean, it's amazing. I love it. It's almost like an anti-love story, right? Because they're kind of friends, but there's a bit of a vibe. And I feel like that's so true. That's so true of life. It's so opposite rom-com,
It's yet another film that shows the horror of monogamy ruining another potential romantic relationship.
Is it, or is it? I mean, I think it is definitely a film about monogamy, because it's a film about the proliferation of affairs. It's impossible to stay monogamous and never have any kind of emotional affair, I think. Maybe not impossible, but it's certainly a challenge. But the point is, in this final scene, when they hug and Bill whispers something in Scarlett's ear, it's been this ongoing thing, almost like a conspiracy theory about the film.
Yeah.
What is it that he's saying? And there have been these videos that have been posted on YouTube where they've enhanced the audio and then they've put subtitles over, but there's still a lot of debate. So far, I could find like 4 different translations. One is, I have to be leaving, but I won't let that come between us, okay? Or tell him the truth, okay? Or when John is ready for his next business trip, go up to that man and tell him the truth, okay? Okay, so all variations. Or promise me that the next thing you do is go up to that man and tell him the truth. So all these different ideas about what this quote is. So much emphasis has been put on that. But in interviews, when Sofia Coppola's been asked about it, she said herself, well, I had never figured out what that final line would be. In the script, it was blank and I was going to add it in later, but just never got around to it. So in the end, Bill Murray ad-libbed the quote. So I don't know. And she isn't really that bothered about it.
Yeah.
And similarly, the bum shot wasn't planned either. That isn't in the script. It was just something that Sofia Coppola came up with at the end. And in both cases, she's kind of said, well, I don't really know. It's whatever you want it to be. I'm not really trying to say something specific or hugely significant with either.
That's art.
And I quite like that. I like that we can call it the bum shot and be kind of cavalier about it, but it's ultimately just a very beautiful, beautiful shot. There's this thing in the film where everyone moves quite slowly, right? Scarlett Johansson's character is kind of languid and a little bit sleepy, and it kind of seems like she's just feeling a bit down, and that's manifesting in how she moves. And Bill Murray's character is kind of the same, and there's also this slowness to that scene. Initially you think it's a still, and then suddenly she kind of moves, and she's clearly kind of getting up after having a nap or something. So you're right, it does set a nice kind of vibey tone.
Yeah, maybe as well, she's asleep in that shot that we see at the moment. It's somebody rousing from slumber. And the whole film has that, like we were saying, it's got a slowness to it. There's a dreamlike quality. It's almost like this is a dream of a romance that happens when you're in Tokyo.
You know what's funny, right, is the first time I watched this movie, I think I was about 17. And I absolutely loved it, but I remembered it up until I watched it again a few years ago as a film about platonic connection.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it as a romance whatsoever. And I remember even seeing a clip of an interview of Bill Murray where he talks about this film being about, finding connections with people when you're in other relationships, and what do you do about that? How do you proceed? And me thinking, God, Bill Murray, what a perv! He's projecting. He's reading that into the film, and that's not what it's about at all. When clearly, that for me, that was what I was reading into it. I was like, I don't want to think of this as a 17-year-old and a 50-something-year-old man getting together. I'm going to see it as something completely
just two friends hanging out.
But there is something, okay, yes, this is part of a long lineage of movies about older men and younger women. But I do love the fact that it is really their connection is friendship and something a little less like cut and dry than like the romances of most movies. Yeah. I really like that it's a more complex portrayal, because I feel like that is much more true to life of how connections often are, romantic connections. Like, it's there a bit, but then there's other stuff around it,
It reminded me a little bit of The Worst Person in the World, the party scene where she meets the guy, and they do this thing where they get as close as they can do without technically cheating, don't they? And it's not quite that intensity in this film, but it's that kind of thing, isn't it? We've not done anything technically wrong, but is it an emotional affair?
And speaking of affairs, should we move on to Shirley Valentine?
Oh, yes. I have to confess, Lily, this has been on my list of films I never wanted to watch ever. Let me give you my reasons for it. They're nothing to do with the quality of the film.
My mouth is like on the floor right now.
Yeah, I can see. But just let me just explain myself here, is that the time period that it was made in 89, I just remember 1989 so well, just from being a kid. And I just didn't like the 80s. I didn't like the late 80s. It was a grim, miserable time. And I didn't like the fashion, the hairstyle, didn't like any of it. And so Shirley Valentine, for me, represents the ultimate film that was made in 89 that reflects 89. I wanted to escape from reality. I wanted to watch Indiana Jones at the cinema in the 80s. So this just represents for me, I don't want to experience the 80s, English working class 80s. I was just like, no. So those are my reasons for strongly avoiding it.
So you are basically Shirley Valentine about Shirley Valentine.
Thank you.
All she wants to do is escape the working class northern 80s, which I watching this film, I somehow thought that it had been made in 1978, and when it was brought to my attention by James that it was the late 80s instead, I literally could not believe it because it feels so long ago. It's like such a completely different world. It's amazing.
Well, like watching it just jangles all my nerves. I don't like the 80s. I didn't like being there and living through it. So watching it, and it's very well recreated. That's exactly what it looked like. The kitchen, the house, the production design, it's all spot on. But like, oof, it just took me back, Lily, in a way that I didn't enjoy.
Oh, really? So you were having a bad time watching
But
Shirley Valentine? I thought you'd have loved it, honestly.
having said that, now I've watched it, I have to say there's nothing at all. All of my aversion to watching it was nothing to do with the actual film itself. It was more to do with what it was representing for me personally. So seeing through the film, I actually say I was pleasantly surprised at how good it was.
Oh my God, thank God. Well, yeah, so Shirley Valentine, as we said, made in 1989, directed by Lewis Gilbert. And it was written by Willie Russell, who he's already on my radar because when I was growing up, my mum made me watch Educating Rita, which was his other screenplay. Both these films were originally plays and then were adapted to the cinema after being big hits. And I don't remember thinking this with Educating Rita, which is, by the way, an amazing film, guys. Strongly recommend. Michael Caine at his best. But in this film, you can really feel that it was a play, right? It's so a play. She's talking to the camera for a lot of it. She breaks the fourth wall, and you can feel that this started as a play. But once you get into that, because initially when that started, I found it a bit kind of discombobulating,
Yeah. A one woman play. It's meant, obviously, when you go see the play, it's just Shirley Valentine. It's a monologue.
And yeah, you can really tell. But once you kind of settle into the cadence of the film, it becomes brilliant. I think it's an amazing movie, actually.
Before we get too into the weeds of the film, I'd just like to quick quiz, Lily. Can you name the other film by Lewis Gilbert that we've discussed on this podcast?
Oh my God!
Don't you go clicking. Just you got just for fun. I can see the hand. Just for fun. Let's go for fun, and then.
Can you ask me a couple of questions? Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Is it a British film? British cast, British set?
Yes, but it's a British-made film, but it's international in scope.
International in scope. Christ alive, what is it? What did it come out in the 90s?
Nope.
80s?
Late 70s.
Late 70s. Ooh, what have we talked about from the late 70s that's international in scope?
You know what I'll do, Lily? I'm going to quote your quote from the film itself.
Okay.
A woman.
Is that Moonraker?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You wouldn't
Many
think, would you?
strings to Lewis Gilbert's bow. Good for him.
You got to say, he can do big action films, even though Spy Love Me is my favourite, which he also directed. Moonraker's one of the weaker ones. But but also he can do like more traditional kind of dramas.
The connection I see, the correlation I see is that both films are funny. I think he's good at directing comedy.
Yeah.
Do you think? That's all I can say about mind you, I don't know if Moonraker is almost meaning to be funny.
Moonraker's a kind of a mixture of unintentionally funny. I don't think they set out to make it as ridiculous as it was. But what I think, I never saw him as a comedy director. I think he's just got a good light touch. I think he can, and clearly going from like the Spy Who Loved Me Moonraker to something like this, he's clearly got a lot of range, So
yeah. Well, anyway, back to Shirley Valentine. We should probably explain why this is another sad girl movie. So basically, this story follows this woman with the best name in the world, Shirley Valentine. Well, that's her OG name. She is married to a man whose name is Bradshaw, I believe, and she's really unhappy. It's so like encapsulates a particular time until quite recently in the UK because she's a homemaker. She doesn't have a job. And she just spends her day basically literally talking to the wall. She's talking to the wall. They're very subtle with their metaphors in this movie. And she's really unhappy. And she always wanted to travel. And instead, she dropped out of school. She was kind of made to feel like she would never amount to anything. Teachers really didn't believe in her at school. And she always felt that she was lacking. And it's funny because it's really what's so great about the film is the characterization of Shirley, who's played by Pauline Collins.
Yeah.
She's such an amazing, cool woman. Like, you want to be friends with her. She's super funny. She's super kind of this big personality, but not in like an annoying way. She's just like she's got it, you know, she's got something. And yet she hasn't achieved, well, I don't want to say she hasn't achieved much, but she feels very unfulfilled by her life because she really wanted to travel and explore the world, and she hasn't had the chance to do that. And she encounters all these women around her who she feels probably think that they're superior to her because she herself feels inferior. And so she basically just doesn't really like herself. And then this film, she basically says, fuck you, because her husband is abusive, and leaves him and goes for a 2-week holiday in Greece. That's all it is, a 2-week holiday. She's going to come back to him. But that is enough to kind of give her the chance to really find herself,
rediscover herself.
She likes herself. So what did you think of it, James, once you got over the how triggering it was?
Well, I never quite got over it. There was everything. I was like, oh, bloody hell, those hairstyles. Oh, everybody.
The hair was amazing. When she jumps in the water and she's got big wet hair, like a shaggy dog, it's amazing. Sorry, carry on.
I really enjoyed everything. I thought it slowed down for me once we got to Greece. I really enjoyed the build-up, which I think if they were making it now, they'd probably get them to Greece much quicker. But I like the fact that we spent a lot of time establishing the kind of the life that Shirley Valentine has, and the fact that it's not quite worked out for her. I didn't realize there was going to be like flashbacks and there's different scenes. So as much as it's very clear it was a one-person play, they've done their best to kind of broaden it out and to kind of give it a bit of scale.
Yeah, I mean, Alison Steadman playing her feminist friend.
Oh,
and Joanna Lumley in there as well. You know, they've done good things with the cast. Tom Conti playing a sexy Greek man she has an affair with. Interesting accent.
Albert Einstein himself from Oppenheimer. It's Tom Conti.
I think of him as Elizabeth's dad in Friends. So we've all got our Tom Conti. And he was also the dad in Wimbledon. Do you remember that?
Oh, God. Yeah, I'd totally forgotten that.
Yeah, Tom Conti, a Scottish man with Italian roots playing a Greek man called Costas. Sure.
Why not? Why not? It was the 80s. It was the 80s, you know.
It was the 80s. They did Greeks differently then. But yeah.
So how old were you when you first saw this? Is this a film you saw when you were younger, or is this more you came to as an adult? Where?
No, this was my first time watching it too. I'd seen Educating Rita, and it was kind of on my radar because of that. But I shoehorned it. I really wanted to watch it. So here we are.
It was interesting reading about Willie Russell's writing process, because he said for the first time writing it, it was almost like, he said it must be like a method actor acting, is that he just started thinking like Shirley Valentine. And so he would stay in his mind in character as Shirley Valentine while he was talking to his neighbours and his friends, because he said Shirley Valentine was much wittier and funnier than he is. And so he adopted that persona, and he said that when he tried coming out of the character, he couldn't write Shirley Valentine anymore. So he said for the process of writing the script, he was Shirley Valentine. Then when they performed the one-woman play, because they didn't have much money when they first staged it, he actually was the understudy to the female actress playing Shirley Valentine, because he just figured, well, who's going to... One member of cast, they just need to not get ill, but she did end up in hospital. And the show had become a sellout. It had become a huge success, but then she got hospitalized, stepping for one night. We actually did like nearly 2 weeks, I think, or at least a full week of him on stage as Shirley Valentine.
I mean, the optics are terrible. This is a play about a working class woman, and this guy comes in and plays the part. But I love that. That's so cool.
But he plays, in a suit. He's not trying to pretend that he is Shirley Valentine. It's more a reading because he's not an actor. So it was very interesting. Apparently, got some good notices for it.
That's amazing. I love that. Just the same as with Educating Rita. And what I love is that both these movies are about northern women who have incredible personalities and are really intelligent, but haven't been given the opportunities to achieve the things they want to achieve or have the adventures they want to have in life, but find the way to do that themselves, whether it be through higher education and Educating Rita, or with a holiday and a holiday romance as it is with Shirley Valentine.
Ooh la la.
It's so cool that she does have sex with Costas. She does cheat on her husband, but and of course, you know, a few people are a bit shocked about that in the film, but the film isn't judging her for it. It's not the biggest deal. It's not really what the film is about. And also she doesn't end up with him. The film really isn't about him. It's very much just about herself. It's an amazingly contemporary film because it really isn't preachy. There's this feminist character that I said that Alison Steadman plays. And, you know, she's got this very strong stance on men and what's right and wrong. And then she turns out to be a really rubbish friend to Shirley. And Shirley herself is like, oh, I'm not a feminist. You know, she doesn't identify with that, you know, again, in late 80s, different attitude to it. But I like that the film shows her going on her own journey that is quite feminist. The film is very feminist, but without being like overtly politicized. It's a lot more kind of just like normal people finding happiness that I quite like.
And I think at the end, I mean, is she just going to go back with her husband? They left it at least a little bit open, like there was possibly a question mark. I would hope not. Please don't do it, Shirley.
I've got to believe that she's so well embedded in that cafe she's working at. You know, the tourists need their egg and chips, so I hope not. God, it's amazing, isn't it? Because if that scene at the start of him putting the egg and chips in her lap, like that is abuse. And I mean, for that to be just the thing that the catalyst for her to leave, but then, you know, she hasn't left him or whatever. It like really, you know, contextualizes that film in a particular time period, doesn't it? How things have changed.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing and depressing.
And also at the end, you know, the power dynamic has shifted. You know, he sits down to share a drink with Shirley, the husband who's come to Greece to visit her. And you know, he's a stooped man. He's clearly got no power in this relationship anymore. I think that's the kind of final note, isn't it? That she's kind of reclaimed authority over her own life to an extent. So I think she's dictating the terms now, that he's come to see her and he sits at her table.
Yeah, I mean, overall, a very uplifting film. I'm glad Shirley Valentine found her happiness in Greece.
Yeah, and I'm glad that she doesn't just go back home at the end of the 2 weeks. I was like, please let it have something more interesting at the end, which it did, so that was good.
But what a heartbreaking thing to watch now post-Brexit. We can't just go on holiday for 2 weeks and then decide to stay.
God, you brought me crashing back down to earth.
I'm sorry. Sad girls on holiday. I'm always sad now when I'm on holiday because I know I have to go back.
Yeah, because you cannot stay no more. God damn it.
No. Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, on that note, we have a very fitting film pharmacy entry. Hi, Lily and James. The summer in Britain has been crap. Any film recommendations for when the next downpour inevitably strikes to help me forget about this gloomy island? Thanks, a soggy listener.
The first thing that comes to my mind, just because it's rain themed, but also upbeat, is Singing in the Rain, a favourite of mine. You know, that lifts my spirits. I feel like I might have given that as an answer before at the film pharmacy, but that's my immediate response.
You might have done, and we have also discussed it
God damn,
on the podcast.
Yeah.
I know it's tricky because all the ones that came to my mind, you know, Call Me By Your Name. That's all I can think of off the top of my head right now. But there were a few that came to mind were all ones that we'd already discussed on the podcast. So I was like,
oh no, we're doing too many episodes, Lily. We've got to the point now where
I know, we need to watch more movies. But it came to me just before we started recording. My suggestion is Orlando, the 1992 film by Sally Potter. Have you seen that movie?
It was a very, very influential film for me. When I was getting to filmmaking, there was like Peter Greenaway who was inspiration. And one night I saw Orlando, which, similarly to Peter Greenaway's work, opened my mind to the potential of cinema. I rewatched it recently as well, a couple of years ago.
I love it. Similarly, I was advised to watch it at university and it really was, bam, amazing, eye-opening. So it's based on Virginia Woolf's novel from 1928. Also very good novel, would recommend that. Wild story, but in the film adaptation, Tilda Swinton plays the titular Orlando, who's basically a man who lives for 400 years and turns into a woman halfway through. And Billy Zane is her like hot, sexy bit of eye candy. That's literally his function in the film, is just to look pretty. And Quentin Crisp plays Queen Elizabeth I. So all in all, it's literally like queer nirvana. It's like perfection. and not just because of the casting, but because we're going through these 400 years, you get these incredible sets, incredible costumes. It's pure escapism, but also it is like stimulating. Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching crap, even though it's just such a pleasurable watch. So that's an escape for you from time and space, as well as like current location, if you know what I mean. You know, we're going back in time. We're not just going warmer.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. An interesting choice. I think I'm going to then offer up an alternative, which is just more, let's just go for straight out comedy. If it's gloomy, let's just go for lol. So I'm going to,
Love it.
A bit of it. It's a very, very obvious choice. But you know what? I rewatched it for the first time in years and I had a hoot. Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. There we go. It will transport you back to the 60s, transport you back to the 90s. It will take you away from your problems here and now.
100p. Do you think Orlando and Austin Powers would be friends?
There's a question I never thought would be asked. I didn't. I mean, shall we shag now or shall we shag later in the Middle Ages?
I think, yeah, I think as sexual partners, I can see it. I don't know about as friends.
Well, and on that note,
that's my take on the subject. Okay, well, this was our penultimate episode for the series. Next week is our finale, so guys, get excited.
Whoop,
it's going to be special. We've got some big plans to discuss the things we're excited about.
That's
right. So you'll know what to look out for
Absolutely.
in the next couple of months.
And if you could leave us a like or a 5-star review, we would really appreciate it. It helps get the podcast out to a wider audience.
So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye.
Bye.
Follow us on Instagram at Groovy Movies Pod or email us groovymoviespod@gmail.com.
Groovy Movies was produced and edited by Lily Austin.
Music and sound by James Brailsford.
Our logo was designed by Abby Jo Sheldon.
For references and more information about the films discussed, check out the show notes.